Let's have a look at the fabrics. Here I've chosen a beautiful printed cotton. I absolutely love those. They do crease, so you need to decide whether you want that or not, but I have to say, once that's interfaced, that's okay. This is called a gingham, and you have got different color threads in the warp and the weft, creating this beautiful pattern. And mine is almost see-through. You can see my fingers through. I really like that for a lining. It's beautiful. And then we've got here a denim, and that's a twill weave. It looks almost like steps that go up diagonally across your fabric. That always has a bit more give, this kind of fabric. You know it from your jeans. That's why they're so comfortable. And if you then put a lining with that, you might want to choose something that equally has a little bit of stretch. And again, it's a woven stripe. I think that's always really nice. This one is a beautiful fleece. I love using fleece for this sort of thing, but it has to be said, it's very stretchy, and it really helps to use a fabric which has a plain weave so that it will hold together that little bit of stretch on the top, so it's easier to work with, it won't stretch, and it's easier also to put buttonholes in and all the rest of it. And you can see it here, it gives the fleece the firmness it actually needs, and that's really cool as well, of course, with Darth Vader on it. If you're using wool, you have to make sure that you are cutting out with a nap, so the nap runs from your head down to your toes. And again, I have got a twill weave and a woven pattern, which again, I think is absolutely super and very suitable for a waistcoat. Then something that people don't think about a lot is furnishing and upholstery fabric. This is great. You can see that it looks very structural. That's because you got in the weft a much thicker thread than you got in the warp. And it's like poplin. That makes it stand more. Sateen is similar actually in the way that it stands. So these fabrics are very, very good for anything where you want the structure. So don't just walk past those. They're great for little skirts and coats and obviously waistcoats as well. It's a really, really good thing to do. And sometimes you can get small little remnants, and that makes good sense. And this is another remnant. I wouldn't suggest you buy Dupion silk. This is silk and it creases a lot. But if you have got something like that lying around, of course, using that for the back will look absolutely stunning. Here I've got another selection of blue themed fabrics. Again, we have a twill weave, and I actually use that for the little girl's waistcoat. It's a beautiful, beautiful fabric. Look at that. And then we've also got the linen that I'm using for the boys' waistcoat. We'll put the waistcoat together in this fabric. There's no give in it. So you have to decide whether you want a fabric which has give in it or whether you don't. As a lining, I've chosen a stripe, and again, it's a woven stripe, but it also has a little bit of elastane in it. And if you are cutting pockets in this, make sure that you cut them with the stripe and not against it. For the vintage look, why not use a herringbone? It's also a twill weave, goes up and then back down. And the beauty of using it in wool is it will not crease. So I've really creased it, and once I undo it, it takes just seconds to spring back. So that is a waistcoat that you will not be able to murder. Your kid can wear that and it'll always look absolutely pristine, unlike cotton. What I love about our sewing group is that people come from all over the world, and this beautiful waistcoat was sewn by Frida from Namibia for her son, who's an absolute supermodel, as you can see, and she used wool and satin or sateen to complement each other, which I think is really lovely. And then to the left, we've got a waistcoat from Umurani Abdullah, and she's sewn that for her son. And on the right, we have Suzanne Hutzel, who sewed for her son Samuel, and she used velvet. And that, my friends, I wouldn't recommend unless you know how to sew really well, because velvet is very, very difficult to sew with. And then here's Samuel again in a nice cotton, which has a beautiful checked pattern. And then you've got of super cool lining on the inside. Now we've got a really super cool waistcoat for a girl, sewn by Vicky Manzano for her daughter. and she used cord and a printed cotton. I think cord or corduroy is also a really easy fabric to use, and it looks very, very cool. And then we've got something I wouldn't necessarily recommend if you're a beginner, and that is to put together silk and crepe de chine. That isn't easy, but I do love the look. I think it's very cute, just tied in the back like that, if you don't want to use like extra wide ties. Then here is my waistcoat. This is how we are going to sew it, with beautiful pockets, the ties in the back, and I hope that you really enjoy making this. We are now ready to get started.